But first, do you lot at home worry what books your 10, 11 or 12-year-old is reading? If they don't read much, you might be chuffed a bit just to see them holding a book. But what if they are a voracious reader? Do you monitor what their little eyes are consuming? Jacqueline Wilson's Tracy Beaker novels, Love Lessons, for example, in which a 14-year-old falls for her married art teacher. They don't go down well with all parents, but younger readers absolutely adore them. And the writer, Jacqueline, has copped a bucket load from the Daily Mail, for example, for her novels which have been deemed too adult for younger readers. But Miss Beaker, as a character, is an angel compared to some of the characters in the best-selling Gossip Girl series and its tales of steamy stripteases, boozing and threesomes. I've actually ordered a couple of copies off Amazon this morning because I fancy reading a few myself. And I suppose that's relevant, really, because it's not just girls who are devouring these tween-age books, as they're dubbed. The Cherub novels, they're a big hit with boys as young as 12. The Cherub series has seen the principal character, 11-year-old James, lose his mum to drink and drugs, while another volume covers sex trafficking. Perhaps more controversial still, but very, very popular, Judy Blume's Deanie tells of a 13-year-old girl who finds comfort... how can I do this on TV? Finds comfort playing with her nunny. There we go. A far cry from Enid Blyton's famous Five, don't you think? Which, actually, Kirsten and I were just talking about this during the break. We were both banned from reading. Tween literature expert Pam Spencer-Holly argues adult themes encourage children to think about how they deal with situations in the real world, a bit like mock weddings at primary schools, I guess. But Harvard psychiatry lecturer Susan Lin thinks these tomes only further expose young minds to poor adult values. Well, I know you only play her, you don't write her, but... Yeah. Do parents right to be concerned about some of our contemporary children's books?
Yeah, I guess so. I suppose they should sort of keep an eye on it, but it's the same with, like, TV, you know, you never know what your children are watching, really. When I was younger, I would go up to my room and watch telly, and I'd go up to my room and read a book, so my parents probably wouldn't know what I was reading, but I was reading Jacqueline Wilson, and she helped me with stuff like divorce and, you know, people being in care, and it's not so much about relationships, it's about how to deal with stuff like having divorced parents, and it really helped me.
Stuff that, I suppose, it's stuff that you didn't normally see in children's books, and I think that's why the Daily Mail and some parents struggle with it. It's a bit gritty. When we move on to the more sort of overtly sexual stuff, I mean, kids have an interest in sex, don't they? So I suppose...
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose it's a good way to learn. Like, when I was younger, we didn't really have sex education at school. I think I had one lesson in the whole time I was at school. So other than reading and asking my parents, I wouldn't know anything about it. So it's good to learn.
OK. So, banned from Enid Blyton. Why...
I think it was her grammar, wasn't it? And also content as well. Yeah. But at school, we weren't allowed to read anything by Enid Blyton. No. Which, obviously, I was like, oh, I want to read Enid Blyton.
I was told it was a waste of my life to read an Enid Blyton book. That's how the teacher said it. You'd be wasting your life.
But some of the stories were magical, weren't they? I mean, did you ever read any...
Well, I read quite a lot of them, and when I look back, and if you pick them up now and you realise how incredibly sexist and at times racist they were, you can understand that perhaps our teachers were right. What about today's children's books? I mean, they're very different from those innocent days. Do you think they rob kids of their innocence?
Obviously, my kids are young, so I'm not that aware of what's out there at the moment. I am, you know, aware of... Jacqueline's brilliant job with Tracy Beaker. I was quite a naive child and teenager. And I think we were, weren't we? It does really scare me, this loss of innocence, younger. My husband and I were talking about it last night. I think it's difficult to really say anything except that parents really need to keep on top if they can. But as you say, it's difficult. The internet...
But if we live in a sexualised society, the trouble with a sexualised society is you don't really get information, you get images. And there's a case, is there not, Les, with these books that they are, even though parents might not want their children to read some of these things, they're going to get real information and real moral judgments.
I was brought up in the 50s and 60s, so, I mean, Enid Blyton was not a bounce for me. I read we had Enid Blyton, Just William and Billy Bunter. They were the books that I was reading as a young kid. If at that time, and I was going through life changes, but we couldn't talk to anybody, couldn't talk to our parents, if at that time I had a book that I could identify with the character and what they were going through, I think it would have been brilliant for me to do that. And I think that's what's great, I think, for kids, if they can see and identify with a character. And hopefully, you know, like you, my little girl's not 3 yet, so I haven't looked at these books, but I think the fact that we're talking about it makes me think that I should look at them so that we can see what the content is. Hopefully they're moralistic and positive, you know, about their future and their issues. And they, like you say, they can watch EastEnders and watch some of the themes on that.
I'm just kind of aware that when I was 13, 14, I was nicking my dad's copy of The Happy Hooker, which I found, which was very educational in certain aspects. And I'm thinking, actually, do we need sex in kids' books when there are plenty of adult books around that kids can get their hands on if they so desired? I guess that's where you come in. What do people say, Kirsten?
OK, we have Sarah on line 1.
Sarah, good morning.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi.
Go on, what would you like to say?
Well, I'm having a dilemma with my 12-year-old daughter at the moment. She wants to read Breaking Dawn, which is the 4th book of the Twilight series.
Right, OK.
And basically, my cousin phoned me from university to tell me that she didn't think that Abigail, my daughter, should be reading it.
Right.
And I wasn't aware that it's actually quite explicit. And I told my daughter, and she said that she was going to be bullied at school because she wouldn't be reading the book.
Oh, God, they're crafty, these kids, aren't they, with their arguments?
So I'm completely on top of everything that my daughter does. I know what she's reading because I go in her bedroom during the day when she's at school.
But are you going to stop? Are you going to stop her reading this book?
Yes. I've told her that she can read them when she's probably about 15.
That's good.
You think that's good?
I do, actually, yeah.
Won't she go underground like you guys did with the Enid Blytons?
Just about to say, aren't you worried that she's going to end up... Forget about the bullying thing, I think that's nonsense, but that she will end up disobeying you?
I think she knows not to.
Does she understand why you don't want her
we've sat down and explained to her why we don't want her to read them, and although she's sort of not happy...
Sarah,
I'll read them together.
Sit down and Mummy's going to read you a story.
Well, scribble out the bad bits.
When you say explicit, bearing in mind this is a daytime TV show, can you help me out with... Because...
Well the character falls in love with a vampire, which I know is not going to happen in real life, but she becomes completely infatuated with the vampire, and in the last one, which is Breaking Dawn, they have a child.
Right, so there are explicit sex scenes in the new...
Yeah, because the vampire... It's quite difficult to explain on daytime telly.
Welcome to my world.
I mean, I've read some of the passages in the book because I've actually confiscated it.
OK. Thank you. It's good call, thank you. Let's have one more.
OK, we have Barbara next on line 2.
Barbara, going to have to be fairly quick with you, I'm afraid. What's your take on the books that kids are reading?
Hi there. My take is I always wonder why books haven't got a rating system like films and video games and Xbox games and things like that.
Michael Rosen would say, if he were here, that the children's author is because children develop at different rates, and it's quite... I mean, you do get books with age ratings, but not all, and they're only a recommendation. Kids develop at different rates, their understanding is different. It's hard to categorise.
Yeah, that's right. But, you know, I think that if a rating system was adopted, at least you'd have guidelines.
Yeah.
Or at least a warning.
Yeah.
For parents to see, you know.
Yeah. You wouldn't just be happy just to see a child read. I'll tell you, that Twilight one, that's troubled me now, because I know they are massively popular.
I wonder if she were to speak to the other parents. Especially if they're saying, well... You know,
the bullying aspect.
From the bullying aspect, could she speak to some of the other parents?
That sounds like a 12-year-old manipulating their mum. Well, if I'm not allowed to do this, I'll get bullied, and we all know bullying's the big bad word, don't we? OK, thank you for the calls.